Have you ever wondered what would have happened if the strongest new gen characters fought against the legendary old gen villains? Do the old generation villains stand any chance against our new gen characters? Well, to answer that, I picked the 7 strongest characters from the villain side and 7 from the new gen, and split them into 5 stages. And just like we did in our previous 2 videos, I'll start by revealing the first stage for both generations, and as the video goes on, I'll slowly keep adding more and more characters, until we finally reach the end, where both generations will fight with their full strength. So for starters, we have Gojo from the new gen side and meowm from the villain side. As soon as the battle begins, Gojo immediately activates his infinity. That means unless meowm can somehow bypass it, he's got no real shot. So the big question is, can he actually get through Gojo's infinity? Now, meowm's power is beyond question. His strength, speed, and durability are off the charts, and on top of that, he's a tactical genius, adapting, analyzing, and mastering his opponents in no time. But even with all that brilliance, meowm lacks one crucial thing: any sort of spatial manipulation. Without it, infinity remains an impenetrable wall. And let's not forget Gojo's domain expansion, Unlimited Void. Once activated, it would completely overwhelm meowm's mind, leaving him catatonic and unable to fight back. So while meowm's raw power is monstrous, it means nothing against someone he simply can't touch. Looks like the new generation takes the first win. But what if we added Aizen to the villain side next? Now, the moment Aizen steps onto the battlefield, his spiritual pressure is so overwhelming that Gojo feels it instantly, even through his infinity. And for those wondering how that's even possible, hear me out. Aizen's Reiatsu isn't just raw energy. It can literally crush a person's soul. It's a form of spiritual attack that bypasses ordinary physical defenses. That means Gojo's infinity, which protects him from physical and energy-based attacks, doesn't matter here. Aizen's Reiatsu operates on a spiritual, fundamental, and existential level. And then there's Aizen's trump card, Kyoka Suigetsu, an ability that completely distorts all of Gojo's senses. Sure, the 6 eyes allow Gojo to see through most illusions, but Kyoka Suigetsu is different. It doesn't just create visual illusions, it manipulates all 5 senses, and even the perception of reality itself. So in this fight, all Aizen needs to do is draw Gojo under Kyoka Suigetsu's hypnosis. Once that happens, Gojo can't tell what's real, or where Aizen and meowm truly are. With Gojo's infinity thrown off balance, his defenses begin to crumble, and from there, meowm can strike him freely. Overwhelmed by illusions and relentless attacks from meowm, Gojo unleashes his domain expansion, Unlimited Void. Yeah, it's enough to overwhelm meowm, but Aizen is built different. With his mastery of high-level Kido, even space-time manipulation, Aizen could tear open a hole in the domain's barrier and dismantle everything inside, Gojo included. So this round goes to the villains. Now, before we move ahead, like and hype this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Now it's time for stage 2, where we will add Tanjiro and Deku to the new gen side. Here, meowm will be taking on Tanjiro and Deku, while Aizen once again faces Gojo. The Aizen vs Gojo battle plays out just as we discussed earlier, so let's shift our focus to meowm vs Tanjiro and Deku. To be honest, meowm is operating on a completely different level from these two. From the very start, Deku would unleash his full arsenal of quirks, but it wouldn't take long for meowm to analyze his fighting style and adapt. His intelligence is simply that sharp. Even with all his power, Deku's stamina has limits, especially when using high percentages of all for one. meowm's durability, on the other hand, is immense. He could easily endure Deku's strongest hits and keep coming. As for Tanjiro, his sword would struggle to even pierce meowm's Nen-enhanced skin. Remember, even Netero's 1,000 strikes barely made meowm feel more than a dull ache. And while Tanjiro's spirit and technique are incredible, at the end of the day, he's still human. His raw strength and durability just don't compare to someone like meowm. So once again, this round clearly goes to the villain side. But we are not done yet, because now it's time for stage 3, where we are adding Saitama to the new gen side and Madara to the other. Alright, so in this round, Saitama steps onto the battlefield to face Madara, while the rest of the matchups stay the same. Deku and Tanjiro versus meowm, and Gojo taking on Aizen. Now, with Saitama in play, things are about to take a crazy turn. But first, let's set the stage. We're taking Madara at his absolute peak, his 10 Tails Jinchuriki form. In this state, he's essentially immortal, capable of instant regeneration, and wields the immense power of the 10 Tails itself. Plus, he commands the truth-seeking orbs, which can erase almost anything they touch and nullify nearly all ninjutsu. On top of that, he can trap opponents in an eternal dream through a powerful genjutsu. But honestly, all that means nothing against Saitama's feats. One serious punch from him would completely atomize Madara, wiping out any chance of regeneration through sheer overwhelming destruction. And those truth-seeking orbs? They can be shattered by enough physical force. Might Guy manage to affect them with air pressure alone? Saitama's punches, which hold multi-galaxy level power, would obliterate them effortlessly. As for genjutsu, yeah, that's not working either. Genjutsu manipulates a target's chakra flow in the nervous system, but Saitama doesn't have chakra, meaning Madara doesn't stand a chance. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Tanjiro and Deku are still holding their ground against meowm, while Gojo's still locked in combat with Aizen, but under Aizen's illusion. So naturally, Saitama decides to help Gojo first. So, can he take down Aizen? Well, Saitama's limitless power is his ultimate weapon. His serious punches have demonstrated enough destructive force to split cosmic beams and create shockwaves that destroy stars and planets. That kind of raw strength would easily surpass Aizen's regeneration and erase him on a fundamental level. And Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu? It doesn't work either. Remember how Saitama broke free from Phoenix Man's mental dimension by literally punching his way out? Yeah, illusions don't stand a chance against that kind of absurd power. With Aizen defeated, Kyoka Suigetsu's illusion fades, and Gojo returns to normal. Now Saitama and Gojo team up with Tanjiro and Deku against meowm, and let's be honest, at this point, there's nothing left to explain. This time, the new generation takes the win. Now, let's add Asta to the new gen side and Agnologia to the other. For those who don't know about Agnologia, hear me out for a second. Known as the Dragon King, Agnologia was the most powerful antagonist in Fairy Tail. He could consume any form of magic to restore his own strength, making himself nearly immune to magical attacks altogether. On top of that, he possessed immense strength, speed, and durability, and even wielded time magic, which he used to split his own body and soul into two separate entities, while trapping the other dragon slayers in a rift in time. That's exactly why Asta is the best candidate to face him, since he doesn't have any magic for Agnologia to absorb. But honestly, that point barely matters, because we've still got Saitama on our side. Just like in the previous battle, Saitama would quickly take down Madara, lend Gojo a hand against Aizen, and then join Tanjiro and Deku to finish off meowm, which means Agnologia would have to fight all of them to stand a chance. And truth be told, we already know how that ends. Once again, the new generation takes the win. Now let's add Dio Brando to the villain side next. Now we've got a perfect 5-on-5 matchup. The pairings are the same as before: Gojo versus Aizen, Tanjiro and Deku versus meowm, Saitama versus Madara, and Asta versus Agnologia. But this time, we have Dio on the villain side. So, does this presence change anything? Well, honestly, not really. Don't get me wrong, Dio is insanely powerful. His strength, speed, stamina, and heightened senses are far beyond any normal human. And of course, there's his stand, the world, which lets him completely stop time for everyone except himself and his stand. It's an incredible ability, but it comes with a catch. Dio can only maintain it for a maximum of 9 seconds. So, even if we imagine Dio teaming up with meowm to take on Tanjiro and Deku, sure, he could use the world to potentially take them both out. But then, once Saitama finishes off Madara, Dio and meowm would have to face him. And let's be honest, none of that matters against Saitama. Even if Dio stops time, he still can't lay a single scratch on him. Time stop or not, it's pointless. So in the end, the result remains exactly the same as before. The new generation wins again. But let's raise the stakes even higher by activating Stage 4, where we're adding a 6th fighter to each side. Kaiju number 8 joins the new gen team, while Blackbeard steps in for the villains. Now, Blackbeard brings some very very interesting abilities to the table. With his Yami Yami no Mi, he can create and control darkness capable of absorbing anything, matter, energy, even magical attacks, into a black hole of crushing force. On top of that, he wields the Gura Gura no Mi, the same fruit that grants him the power to unleash massive shockwaves and earthquakes. So powerful, they're said to be capable of destroying the world. And of course, we can't forget his mastery of Haki. So if we pit him directly against Kaiju number 8, who's easily an island-level threat, the advantage still leans towards Blackbeard. His Yami Yami no Mi would directly counter Kaiju number 8's biological and energy-based powers, while the Gura Gura no Mi gives him overwhelming destructive potential, enough to bypass number 8's regeneration through sheer force alone. With his armament and observation Haki, Blackbeard could even strike at Kaiju number 8's core. Meanwhile, on the rest of the battlefield, it played out much the same as in the previous scenario. Saitama has already defeated Madara, while meowm and Dio managed to take down Tanjiro and Deku. Gojo and Aizen are still clashing, though Aizen seems to have the upper hand, and Asta is still holding his own against Agnologia. That means meowm, Dio, and now Blackbeard have to face Saitama. If these three can somehow bring him down, the villains could finally take the win, but if not, it's game over for them again. And honestly, even if all three teamed up, they still wouldn't stand a chance. Dio's time stop wouldn't make a difference. He can't harm Saitama even when time is frozen. meowm's attacks would bounce right off Saitama's durability, which shrugs off planet-level damage like nothing. And Blackbeard's quake attacks, while devastating, wouldn't even scratch him. His darkness nullification, useless against pure, limitless strength. And as I've said before, a single serious punch from Saitama has multi-galaxy level power. If that's enough to overwhelm even Aizen's immortality, what could these three possibly do? Once again, the new generation takes the win. Heck, the new gen is dominating this video with 4 straight wins so far. But don't lose hope just yet, my friends, because the villains have one final trump card: Black Frieza. Alright, now drop everything and just listen for a second. We all know the main reason the new gen has been dominating so far is because of Saitama. So this time, things are going to be different. Saitama won't be fighting Madara, because this time, he's got an opponent of his own, Black Frieza. That means Madara is free to assist the other villains across the battlefield. But honestly, we don't even need to see that, because if Saitama loses this fight, the new gen is finished. And if he wins, well, the result will be the same as always. Now, for those who don't know just how terrifying Black Frieza really is, listen closely. In this form, Frieza reached a level of power so extreme that he one-shotted both True Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego Vegeta at the same time. Keep in mind, these are fighters whose base form clashes alone could shake and potentially destroy an entire universe. So, how would Saitama versus Black Frieza actually play out? Well, first off, Saitama's feats, while absolutely insane, top out at around multi-galaxy level, but Black Frieza's power was already threatening to destroy the entirety of Universe 7. His ability to casually knock out god-tier beings like Goku and Vegeta with a single strike shows a level of precision and destructive control that even Saitama might not be able to endure physically. Then there's the matter of Frieza's Ki Blast. These are cosmic-level energy attacks, something Saitama has far less experience dealing with compared to physical blows. And let's not forget speed. Frieza has consistently demonstrated faster than light movement even in his weaker forms. In his Black Frieza state, he's fast enough to completely blindside and instantly incapacitate Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego Vegeta. That puts him at a clear speed advantage over Saitama, whose top feats hover around light speed at best. So this time, Saitama falls. And with that defeat, the new gen finally collapses. At long last, the villains secure the win. But we are not done yet, because it's time for the Stage 5, where we add Sung Jinwoo to the new gen side. Now we've got the ultimate showdown, a complete 7v7 battle. Here's how the matchups break down: Gojo versus Madara and Aizen, Tanjiro and Deku versus meowm and Dio, Kaiju number 8 versus Blackbeard, Asta versus Agnologia, and finally, Sung Jinwoo and Saitama versus Black Frieza. But this time, there's a crucial twist, because with Sung Jinwoo on the field, the villains aren't just facing him, they're facing his 10 million shadow soldiers. Now, Jinwoo isn't sending everyone in right away. His strongest shadows will join the key battles initially, Beru joins Tanjiro and Deku, Igris teams up with Kaiju number 8, Kamish fights alongside Asta, and Bellion backs up Gojo. And here's the important part. These shadows regenerate infinitely as long as Jinwoo is alive, which means they can't truly be killed. Meanwhile, the main fight between Saitama and Jinwoo versus Black Frieza will take time to unfold, so let's check in on the others first. First, Gojo and Bellion versus Madara and Aizen. Honestly, not much changes here. Aizen still dominates. Why? Because in the solo leveling universe, beings like the Monarchs of Destruction can erase shadows from existence. That means Aizen's Reiatsu, which is on a transcendent level, could completely crush Bellion's existence by severing his spiritual link to Jinwoo. And since Kyoka Suigetsu manipulates perception at the spiritual level, it would easily work on Bellion too, making both him and Gojo completely disoriented and unable to even target the real Aizen or Madara. Result, Gojo and Bellion are defeated. On the other side, Meowm and Dio fall to Tanjiro, Deku, and Beru, mainly thanks to Beru. Neither Meowm nor Dio has any counter to Beru's insane regeneration and speed. Next, Tanjiro, Deku, and Beru move on to challenge Aizen and Madara. But let's be real, this isn't even a contest. Madara wipes out Tanjiro and Deku without breaking a sweat, and Aizen erases Beru from existence just like he did with Bellion. Meanwhile, Asta and Kamish take down Agnologia. Asta's anti-magic perfectly counters Agnalogia's magic immunity, and Kamish's raw strength and regeneration completely overpower him. After that, Asta and Kamish regroup with Kaiju number 8 and Igris, while Madara and Aizen join forces with Blackbeard. Once again, the results are the same. Madara and Blackbeard overpower Asta and Kaiju number 8, while Aizen erases Igris and Kamish from existence. Now, after this, Blackbeard, Madara, and Aizen join Frieza to face Saitama and Sung Jinwoo. Seeing his strongest shadows completely erased, Jinwoo snaps, summoning his entire army to flood the battlefield. But it's no use. Aizen's spiritual pressure severs their connection once again, dismantling every last shadow. So the question is, can Saitama and Jinwoo defeat Black Frieza, Madara, Aizen, and Blackbeard all in their peak forms? At this point, Madara, Aizen, and Blackbeard gang up on Jinwoo just to stall him while Frieza goes head-to-head with Saitama. Once Saitama's down, Jinwoo's on his own. Sure, he could maybe take one or two of them down, but with both Aizen and Black Frieza still standing, there's just no surviving that. And with that, the old generation villains finally take the win, defeating the new gen's strongest heroes. Click on this video next, where we made What If the New Gen villains fought against old gen protagonists? Go on, check it out.